Tainted Love. Okay. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics / Non-Classics. This is episode number 1623 and episode number 1517. Now, both two trades are technically released by DC Comics, but under their Vertigo imprint. Everybody thinking, Vertigo? Wasn't that imprint discontinued a few years ago? Yes. I've heard it was discontinued due to a variety of reasons, due to the fact that the last decade, the imprint has not been much the same, ever since the cancellation of the first trade I'm going to talk about here. And I'm also talking about another book, but I've talked about the writing before this one. The first one, basically, this is John Constantine, Hellblazer. No, not John Constantine, the Hellblazer book, which was the last Constantine book published up until recently. Well, when they briefly brought back him, they gave him their book recently where they got canceled 12 issues. This is the book that a lot of people would talk about John Constantine, a.k.a. the Hellblazer. This is written by Garth Ennis, one of the most, let's just say, one of the longest running writers of this book, with the late Steve Dillon on the book. Yep. Now, those of you curious about Hellblazer, this was at the time of its cancellation. It was by far the longest running Vertigo book ever published. Yeah, it was the longest book ever published on Vertigo. It was started back in 1998, in January 1998, and it was discontinued in February 2013. Yes. Garth Ennis had a pretty lengthy run. This is actually one of his many runs of the book. Like, these are the issues he did. Now, in this book, this contains, of his run, it contains issues 62 to 71, along with the Hellblazer one-shot, special one-shot, and Tainted Love. Yep. Now, if you're curious though, what issues did he work on of this book? He worked on 41 to 50, 51 to 83, and 129 to 133. Yes. And you might ask, Nick, is this series as old as you? Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, at the time of its cancellation, it was considered to be one of the most highest selling books. It was also by far the last book outside of Marvel to have a 300 issue until Spawn did it just a couple years ago. Now I think of Tainted Love. I think of the song Tainted Love. It's a classic 80s song. Now these issues were not released in the 80s. These were released back in the 1990s. Yes. Now, these issues were released from 1983. Yeah, pretty much contains, well, Vertigo Jam, which is basically this book. Now, I should also point out, though, about this particular trade series. This is technically volume 7 of this trade series. 7 of, let's see if we can find shape paperbacks here. No, not that one. 7 of, get this, 22. Yes, 22. The last trade actually came out just couple months ago. Yep. It was basically, well, the final trade is actually supposed to come out soon. You thinking, really? Another trade is supposed to come out? Yes. The final trade comes out in March. And this trade was released back in January 2014. One of 4 volumes released that year. Yes. Now, this book. Now, in case you're curious, though, Alan Moore. If you're curious, Alan Moore write anything related to this book? The answer is no. He never wrote this book. He never did, at all. Do not know the reason for it. And here's the strange thing about this book. This actually is one DC book I've never fully read the entire series for. You thinking, really? Yeah, I've only read to about 110. I have not read any for it. A lot of our DC books come out. This is one book I have not read the entirety of. due to the fact that I don't have much interest right now at the moment to basically finish this. Now, a lot of this book basically just, well, John Constantine was 40th birthday. Well, also later on in the book, he runs into people like the Phantom Stranger and Swamp Thing. I get Swamp Thing because he made his first appearance to page of Swamp Thing. Yes, he made his first appearance in Swamp Thing Volume 2, issue number 25. That was, in fact, his very first appearance. As a matter of fact, here's a fun fact for you. The very first trade that collect issues from this very series did collect a couple issues of Swamp Thing. And why were those issues included? Very good reason why. John Constantine guest starred them. And probably by far the most weirdest thing happened that day. Swamp Thing possessed John Constantine to have sex with his wife. Yes, Swamp Thing possessed John Constantine to have sex with Abigail Arcane just so they can have a daughter together. And you're thinking, really? That's the reason why. By the way, Alan Moore wasn't writing the book at this point. It was Rick Vac who wrote this. Yes, seriously. Swamp Thing possessed John Constantine to sleep with his wife. I'm like, what? No, seriously, this seriously happened. And because of this, we actually have the creation of Topher Holland, who actually had their own run as Swamp Thing back in the 2000s. I think this was the Brian K. Vaughan run, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, but this is years before that, and this is about several years after the events of that book. And it's most like basically people who are fans of John Constantine. It's basically just a regular serialized book per se. But that's the way Garth Ennis wrote this. It's definitely a good book. I'm gonna give this book roughly I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I'm not gonna show off the artwork per se. It's nothing to do with Steve Dillon. No, Steve Dillon is not the reason why. It's not because of his art style. His art style is actually quite different from how it is. How I remember it from the 2000 stuff he was doing. Now, these covers here are not done by Steve Dillon. Nope. These covers are done by Gene Fabry. Yep. Ugh. Excuse me. Now, let me show off some interior artwork here. And yes, this is Steve Dillon. He is credited as the artist for this book. So here you go. Yeah, this is Steve Dillon. This is his artwork. Well, this was the style of the 80s and 90s. So that's basically the reason why it looks like this. Why it looks has this different style to it. Now, not the first book I'll come across under Vertigo where it had this style. Do you know what was the other book that had this style? Neil Gaiman's Sandman. It's a very similar style. Because Vertigo was his own thing. It was not part of DC Universe. And in this book, John Constantine aged in real time. When the series ended, the guy was in his 60s. And you're thinking, wait, if in his 60s, why is the heck he look very young? In the current continuity, the reason why he looks so young is because he slept with a female demon. And that apparently gave him the ability to stay young. Yep. Alright, moving on to a different book. We have American Bombard, Volume 6. Not the first review of the series. I have reviewed Volume 1. Look it up. Now, this book does not contain any issues of the main series. Nope, this is stuff that came after the main series ended. Excuse me. This collects a series of 2 one-shots. Yep, American Vampire released one-shots. Yep, this is basically Long Road to Hell and Anthology. Now, in the case of... Now, Scott Snyder is the main writer of this book. Here are your other writers. Though one of these writers is also one of the artists. Two of the writers here are also the artists of this book, of these issues. You have Becky Cohen, Francisco Fresivia, Jason Aaron, Jeff Lemire, Gail Simone, Gail Rabat, Moon. These two are also the artists of this book, issues here. And Greg Rucka. The first two artists of their name. Ray Fox, Raphael Abkirky is the main artist of this book, along with Toya Leety, J.P. Leon, and Duncan Savvy, I think it's pronounced it. The cover here is Ralphie Albuquerque. Yes. This is basically just a series of mythology stories featuring like American style vampires. Like some set in like the early like 20th century a lot of the time. In case you're curious though, the any of this stuff move the present day? No. But I do recommend checking this out because not because it's just because it's written by Scott Snyder, because this actually is really good. I read virtually everything related to American Vampire. Yeah. American Vampire was something that Scott Snyder was working on prior to working on Batman. Yeah, as a matter of actually, I thought it was. No, it was actually, yeah, it was actually just before he worked on Batman. Yeah, before he started working on the main Bat book. I think at the time the book launched, he not long after the book launched, he actually was given Tainted comics for Black Mirror, the awesome story for that one. And this is what you get for, basically for American Vampire, a 34-issue ongoing series. There was also Second Cycle, which was a sequel to that one. That lasted for 11 issues. Plus, you have series and mini-series. Of one hand, you have Survival of the Fittest, which was 5 issues. Lord of Nightmares, Lord of which is in here. There are 2 anthology one-shots related to American Vampire. And you might be asking, Nick, was there anything released recently for American Vampire? Aside from trade paperbacks? The last thing that came out here was... Let's see, the last thing officially released was American Vampire Anthology number 2. That was by far the last thing released for American Vampire. That was back in December 2016, roughly 5 years ago. I don't think anything is released since then, per se. But this is definitely a book I do definitely recommend for people who are fans of Scott Snyder. Now, interesting enough, this is not one book that has not been solicited for a Netflix show. A Netflix show, or even like some kind of TV series. Yeah, that's pretty surprising given how good this series is. I'm going to give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. Let me show some interior artwork here, just for the safe side, because it's Robert Albuquerque, because he's really good. Yep, here's his artwork. Yeah, it's really good. I love American Vampire, one of my favorite Vertigo books. If you ask me personally, what's my all-time favorite Vertigo book? I don't have a definitive one per se. I mean, I like American Vampire. I also like Fables, which is a really good book. I also like other books that technically are DC characters that basically in Vertigo, like Swamp Thing, for example. I do like the Brian K. Vaughan run. That was really good. I enjoyed that one. I definitely do. I definitely did enjoy a lot of the stuff from the classic ongoing book that lasts 177 issues, or 71 issues. I do enjoy that. There's not really good ones per se. I've never come across a bad Vertigo book per se. No, it's just that I can't show much of the artwork for these two series because Vertigo is an adult imprint. Yes, that's mainly the reason for it. And here's the thing. The imprint started back in 1993. It was ended a year ago. I thought it was a few years ago. It was actually last year to end officially, anyways. Yep. Mainly the reason why it was discontinued, I think because the editor left. Well, that was conceived by the Black Label imprint, which, you know my feelings like on this one, where apparently like a lot of the time these books keep frequently delayed for like no reason at all. No, seriously, there's like no reason for these books to get delayed. They just get delayed sometimes for absolutely no reason at all. Sometimes they go like 3 or 4 months between issues for just no reason at all. Yep. But then I say with these two books, both good. adults only for these 2 books. Okay, so that's episode of you. Next one's going to be To Love Rue, Darkness. Okay, next video. Bye.